You've walked into a meeting with your principal or your deputy, and you know that you can answer questions about how many kids are in biology. If you've got a good memory, you can also remember who taught politics last year and the year before. But then if someone asks, what is the percentage of students who have done the feeder subject for every single VCE subject over the past 5 years? What are our trends, essentially? You can't answer that off the top of your head because no one can. But what if you could pull it up instantly? And not just the number, but the trend line. Is it going up or is it going down? You know, what does it mean for next year's staffing? It's all well and good to know what the trend is, but we need to be able to answer what this means for us and what it means for our hiring and our strategizing here. The future is not memorizing this stuff. It's calling on the answers instantly and knowing where the trend line is headed and what it means. Here's what we want to give you. After 3 or 4 15-minute data review exercises, so we're not going to go and ask you to do 2 or 3 hours worth of work here, 3 or 4 15-minute exercises, you'll be scheduling a meeting with your exec that will make you sound like you have got a data analytics team behind you. In fact, when you stop and think about the fact that we've thrown a lot of this, what you're about to see here today, we've thrown a lot of this together in a couple of days, you'll actually get a bit of a glimpse or an insight into exactly just how powerful this technology is becoming and has become. We're going to teach you to become the linchpin between the executive team and the IT department at your school, the person who can translate data into decisions, the person that the school cannot afford to lose. You might recall that a few weeks back in session 3 or 4, I showed you the data manager. It is the engine behind all of this. Your timetable files go in one end and incredible insights come out the other. Now, I said before, 3 or 4 15-minute tasks. Basically, we've got some scripts that can guess that this class code here and this class code 3 years later are kind of tied to the same subject, but we want to send it back to you just to validate, just to make sure that we haven't got it wrong. Now, when you see the data manager for the first time, it can be a little bit overwhelming. There is a lot going on, but I'm here to reassure you, do not worry, for about 3 reasons. Number 1, we are only going to cover subject groups and feeders, code patterns and then subject groups and feeders today. That's really the configuration step. It's where your school's knowledge matters, and that's why I'm going to send these files back to you to validate. We won't go too deep into those just yet. Number 2, as I've kind of intimated already, we will do about 90% of this work for you. Our behind the scenes scripts will do about 90% of this work for you. This is designed as an asynchronous service. And so you send us the files, we process everything, and then we send you the results. So there's the days of sitting at a computer manually generating reports are completely behind you. And the third reason, if we need something from you, we don't send you the whole data manager. So that's the third reason not to be overwhelmed by this. We're going to send you a very small app, a very small piece of the data manager. You open it, make a few tweaks, send it back, and we keep going. And that is the extent of your involvement until you get the trend report and you are off to the races. Metaphorically and with the time you save, possibly literally. So the data manager, you've seen it before, as I've mentioned. The way it works is this. We have a button up here that hooks to the files you send us. And just in the last couple of days, we have figured out a way where you might not need to zip up and email the files. So if you zip them up and you email them and the file's too big, get in contact because we'll have a way that you can automatically get us those files. Our script puts them into categories. It knows which ones are 2026 and so on, and it knows which semester they are. So you can see these kind of colored tags telling you which subgrids map to which semesters and which one's a full year and so on. And this school goes all the way back to 2022. Little data validation, a completeness checker at the bottom tells you that, if you're seeing zeros on here, then maybe some of the files haven't linked. But our script will go into your files and link your student files to your timetable files. So as long as they're all present, as long as all your TFXs and SFXs are present, then we are fine, smooth sailing. Code patterns, and yeah, you'll notice there that took about 3 seconds for this page to load because of how much data there is in here. Don't worry, again, the app we send you will be much more lightweight. It'll be a one pager. And so everything will load a lot faster in your app, and I'll show you your app in just a second. The way it works is this: you have stacks and stacks of code lengths in here. Our script that we can run, we've got these auto kind of detect patterns buttons. We can pretty much guarantee that we will get 90% of your codes mapped across the 5 years that you send us just by pressing a few buttons. But the thing we're going to focus on in just a minute today is this page showing you how to get your codes in if we send you the file and how to review them. And so we'll come back to this one shortly. But basically, you can see here that there are different types of codes in here. Each one is doing the same thing. It's trying to extract out the option code or the subject code. So no matter what you've put around it, whether you've put the calendar year or the campus code or a suffix, of course, or a semester code or a term code or anything else, we'll be able to extract the subject from that class code. This is the step that saves you having to go in and manually set your suffix in menu 7D of the TFX file. The subjects and units screen automatically, there's a build master subjects button here. What it does is it automatically generates all of the subjects that have run at your school, and it takes all of those different subjects from whichever years they are, and it puts them into these categories. And so when you are having a look at a subject, you can see all of the different codes that map from your files to that subject. And then in master subjects, we can extract a master subjects table. You already have one in school data. If there are any discrepancies between your school data master subjects table and the one we generate in here, then we can flag that for you as well. And so we can give you a script, or we can go in and update it for you. You can see old model and new model here. I'm not going to give that away just yet, but if you have been with us for the duration, and just looking around the room, there are a couple who have, then I can just reassure you that the future is pretty close to painless. Subject groups is where the magic starts. Your subject groups are basically what you could call your solver groups. So what group does the timetabling solver, the student solver, the SFX, if you like, what does it solve like one piece at a time? And so the obvious starting point would be, say, year 11 and 12 VCE subjects. And so you might have a 6-line year 11 and 12 grid. And so you would put those subjects into subject groups, and it does a few things. One of the things, as I've already mentioned, is it gives the solver a bit of a head start. It knows that these are the subjects and this is the group that I'm going to need to solve. But more than that, it helps generate data, 5 years worth of data for the predictor. And so if we click on over here, year 12 VCE, and I click the drop down here and I'll press 21 more, you can see that at this school, they have all of these subjects in their year 12 VCE group. And when they run a solver over the top of this down the track, they will join year 12 VCE and year 11 VCE and maybe year 10 electives, or whatever the case may be, whatever they like to solve together, and they'll bundle them up and they'll solve them together. So that's subject groups. And once again, I'll show you in a second that we have an app that will make it rapid to generate your subject groups. You kind of get the clues up here, auto discover. So we're going to be able to point this at your student files and your timetable files, and it's going to pretty much know with about 95% accuracy which subjects go into which groups. Next, we have the feeders. And here, one thing we've learned over the duration, a couple of years ago, when we started the concept of feeders, we thought, oh, everything should have a feeder. That would be really important data to know. What we've learned recently is that really the only things that need feeders are, there's two categories. One, if it requires approval. And so we've got an approvals module where if you say that we want our students to get approval to study year 11 biology, then you need to know who to send that approval to. And the feeder can help. If you set year 10 science as the year 11 biology feeder, then when students need approval to study year 11 biology, it will automatically, in the school data core approvals module, it'll automatically generate an approval record for the year 10 science teacher for that student who is trying to select or nominating that they might want to select year 11 biology. So that's reason one. Reason number two for approvals is the predictor. And so we don't need to say, let's say year 9 English. We don't need to say which subject predicts year 9 English because we know that everyone is going to do year 9 English anyway. And so core subjects don't need feeders for the case of providing predictor data. And so this means that the only subjects that need it, that need feeders, insofar as the predictor is concerned, are those where you want to know how many students did the feeder because it will inform how many students you think will do this subject. And so obvious examples, VCE year 12 subjects. How many students will do, if someone came to you tomorrow and said, how many students do you think will do year 12 chemistry next year? The first thing you're probably going to do is have a look at how many students are doing year 11 chemistry this year. Now, the power behind the predictor, which is coming in the next screen, is that it looks at all of your trends across the years, but it also looks at how many students the predictor thinks will go into next year in total. If you had 50 students do year 12 chemistry this year, but there are 200 kids in year 12, and next year you're expecting 100 students in year 12, that's very important information for the predictor to know. And so we will go into that level of detail as well, the cohort size. So when you're thinking which subjects need feeders, we need our year 12 subjects to have feeders. You probably want your year 11 subjects to have feeders. And then if there's anything else lower down in the school that is dictated by the previous year's subject, and so languages are usually a good example, maybe year 8 numeracy support or something like that. How many students did year 7 numeracy support this year? That's a pretty good indicator for how many will do year 8 numeracy support next year. Those are the subjects that will require feeders. You can set rules up here, and these rules will automatically assign feeders. And again, we expect that we'll get about 95% of your subjects mapped to feeders. All right, the enrollment screen is where it starts to get really interesting. You can see how many tabs there are across here. Let's just spend a couple of seconds in each. By subject, it's obvious what it's doing. It's giving you the enrollment numbers per subject across the years of your files. By year level and roll class is also obvious what that's doing. Cohort progressions is pretty much the final task that we're going to ask you to do. And I think this one is a 3 or 4 minute one. In here, we want you to generate the relationships. And so if you are trying to get a handle on how many students will go into roll class 12 next year, because you might have roll class 12 IB or roll class 12 VM or something like that. Roll class 12 is a separate entity from those. It's the VCE stream. You probably care how many students are in roll class 11 this year, not year level 11. However, when you're mapping how many students are going to go into roll class 11V, if you don't have a roll class 10V and they all just go from year 10, then your relationship is probably year 10 to roll class 11V. This is the kind of thing that if you go for a walk around the block, in that 5 minutes, you'll probably get your head around exactly what kind of relationships you need to create in here. As we said, there's about a dozen, and it shouldn't take more than about 4 or 5 minutes once you get the ball rolling. The subject predictor, the reason there's nothing here is because once you select a group, you'll get some analytics on the screen and you'll get a button that says predict all groups. And we will again do this for you. That will generate this. And what this does is it actually, as the name suggests, it predicts every single group that you created, every single subject group that you created. If we just jump very quickly into one of them, Year 12 VCE, and I click the eyeball over here to have a look, it actually gives you the predicted enrollment for every subject for next year. Now, what you can do with this, of course, in SchoolData, if you've got your maximum class size set, it will automatically calculate how many classes it thinks you need for next year. Obviously, knowing how many classes you'll need for next year lets you get a head start on staffing. And we'll talk about auto staffing a little bit later on. A couple of these are kind of nice to haves rather than vital kind of cogs in the chain, if you like. But here you can see that we've got some scoring about how confident we are about the predictions. We have the Manage Planner and Planner Grid are just two steps in the same thing. The Planner Grid is basically the thing we will import into SchoolData for you. It's the prediction about all the classes that we'll run. And just to give you a glimpse into what we're going to give you at the end of this, you can see over here that we can generate, I think it's study, but we can generate lists of people who have taught subjects over the past 5 years. And so we will give you that. We'll give you that printout at the end of this process so that you can go to a document and say, who were the Year 11 specialist maths teachers over the last few years? Who do we think the special maths teacher will be next year and the year beyond that? And for those of you who either were able to attend last Thursday's seminar or have seen the documentation from that seminar, you'll know that one thing that I'm really fond of is the idea of 3-year plans. I think that telling your teachers that we think we want you or we see you taking specialist maths in 2028, it really gives your teachers the confidence that you believe in them and you've got a plan for them and you are in their thoughts and you're in their planning, as opposed to going to them in December and saying, we want you to take specialist maths in 6 weeks, which makes them think, I'm an afterthought, you don't understand how difficult this is. So that exact same, couple of sentences can have incredibly, wildly different impacts on that person and how they feel towards the school. And so this kind of preemptive, predictive data can really help you have those conversations earlier. You can run staffing scenarios, you can do costing predictions, and that is about it. One more thing, and I'm getting sick of the sound of my own voice, so I'll try to wrap this up quickly. The Room Builder is very, very powerful in terms of what it can do for you in the future. We can analyze your rooms that are in your past timetable files, and we can automatically press a button that will tell you which subjects we think must go in which rooms, which ones are the only subjects that can go in certain rooms. And so you might have a science lab and you'll say, we're pretty flexible with science. Any science can go in here, but you're not going to put geography in the only column for the science lab. You don't want geography ending up in there. And then the preferred column is basically, these are the subjects we would like to see end up in these classrooms. Role classes are, if certain role classes have homerooms, they will be populated in this column as well. Now, what this can do for solving your timetable down the track, it gives you a big head start. Let's just put it that way. Generate tables. We have a way now to generate all your master tables, and I touched on this earlier, so that we can compare these to what you've currently got in SchoolData, and we can essentially run a report that will tell you discrepancies. We'll be able to send that to you and say, hey, can we update this field here, or do you want to go in and do it yourself? Because we've noticed that there's a couple of fields that need to be, subjects or people who we think need to be added in there. I'll skip year comparison and I'll head straight to reports. And if you tuned in a couple of weeks ago, you would have seen this, but based on everything we've loaded in the previous screens, which again, we do 90% of it, we press one button here, generate insights, two buttons, sorry, generate and preview. And after about 3 or 4 seconds, you'll see in the background what it's doing is it's generating for you a 100-page book There it is, it's done. And if we scroll down this very, very quickly, this is your insights booklet, trends about literally everything that exists in your timetable file, average class sizes, staffing gaps, class size distributions, everything you might need to know. Okay, so that is the why, I suppose. And now, because you've pretty much seen everything in here, I'm not going to labor the point about today's focus. I'm just going to kind of dive in and out, and then I might jump pretty much straight to questions to see how you're all feeling about this, if there are any. We know from experience that you may prefer to send them afterwards. So essentially, I mentioned before that if we go back to the data manager, it's very big, it's unwieldy, things take a few seconds to load. It's wonderful, but it's a tiny bit painful. We will send you this one pager, and this is the code classifier. We will send you our progress for the code classifier. All you do when you go one screen before this, there'll be a big button in the middle of the page that says load your classification file. We will send that to you as well. You load it in and you will get this screen here. You can create patterns here. And so you might over here say that the pattern definition, and I'll explain what I mean by this in just a sec. You might say the pattern definition is YY space OOOONN. And I'll tell you what this means. YY is for calendar year. A space is literally a space. O is the one that matters. O is your option code. And so you want as many O's as there are in your option code. N means number. If you use letters, it's U for uppercase, L for lowercase. If you have a semester, it's S, and we will send you all this so you don't need to memorize it. C for campus and T for term. And that is pretty much it. So we'll send you those. Once you've created these patterns, there will be an auto match button here where you can assign these to the buckets that you've created. If we, let me see if we've got any that haven't been assigned yet. No, not yet. I think I've assigned them all for this school. Once we have them in this format, and we're hoping that you have about 30 or 40 unassigned ones to assign for us at most, all you will do is export it up here. It will spit out a file and you send that file to us and we move on to the next step. As you can probably guess, the next step, cohort progressions, subject groups and feeders, we will show you how to do as well. Now, I'm mindful of how long I've already been speaking for, so I'm going to jump back to the presentation very quickly and move over to questions. And then what I will do next is send everyone not only this video, but also an explainer. I feel as though this is the kind of webinar where having a running sheet, having a manual that you can have next to you while you click the buttons is probably going to be a lot more beneficial than watching me rapidly click buttons on a screen. So to finish, the payoff. These are the reasons why we think this is a great idea. The predicted grid, as we know, tells you how many classes you'll need for each subject next year. It's based on historical enrollment data, feeder patterns, cohort progressions, and so on. You can see at a glance where demand is growing, where it's shrinking, and where you've got a resource problem coming. Auto staffing, I said I'd tell you a little bit about this. It's optional. We don't think any school will use the auto staffed grid, nor would we want you to. But what it will do is it will tell you whether you have enough staff in each learning area to cope. This one requires you to have your target FTEs up to date in the master subjects table in school data. And so if we would understand if you didn't want to use the auto staffer, but if you do, we'll give you some steps to run this. It's very quick, it's very straightforward, and it will tell you. I think I mentioned a few weeks ago that there was one school a couple of years ago who were overstaffed in a learning area. A teacher from that learning area resigned and they were about to advertise, and the deputy principal knew this based on the AutoStaffer and said, we don't need to advertise here. And they ended up saving themselves, 1 FTE from not having to advertise they were otherwise about to. Subject groups and feeders. They also make building subject selection forms easier because you group your subjects. And as we just heard before, feeder assignments power the prediction engine and help with approvals. The 100-page trend report down here, you know all about that. Progression rates, enrolments by subject, by role class, and so on. Room rules you've seen. There's one school who's telling us that they are about to be basing architectural plans on these room rules. There's one other thing coming here that I won't bombard you with today, but given where tech is headed at the moment, you're going to be able to do some really powerful planning with these room rules. Previously taught data, we will send you that report that you saw before about who has taught what in the past, going back years. This will form the foundation for this one here, faculty succession. Faculty succession will basically be a document we send you where it shows you who has taught all of your subjects, so it'll be by subject, who has taught them over the last X years, and who in your learning area hasn't. And that'll be in the last column. So you can glance through that column and see, is there anyone there who would be a good successor to the person, to the incumbent, the person who's currently teaching it. That can drive your recruiting. Structure planner, we will also send you, that will give you a head start on next year's timetable structure. And a couple of other things, class costs. If you want to, we can run some analytics to tell you what your program is costing and run some scenarios to determine what future structures might cost. So your task at the moment, and looking around the room, I know that a few of you have already done this. So as I said at the start, you will get some of these reports very soon over the next 3 or 4 work days now that all the tools are ready to go. If you haven't, grab your timetable files, go back to 2022 if you can. Ideally put them into folders. And so 2022 semester 1, 2022 semester 2, and so on. Put a TFX, or if you've got more than one TFX per semester, you've got multiple campuses, put your TFXs for that semester into the folder and all SFXs. Obviously, we do need the SFXs in the same folders as the TFX files. So one folder per semester. And that is it. As I said, today is the day where we go through those next steps, and hopefully we've left you in a position where you don't feel as though your involvement from here will be too intensive. We do the heavy lifting, and hopefully we're going to, via those small modules that we send you, give you some data that makes you the most informed person in the school and absolutely irreplaceable.